And we are off. And they're running around the track, something, greyhounds chasing a rabbit. We're about to find out a thing. The thing is, we're going to see who is the... Hold on, I got to take a sip. And I guess they're still running around. Wouldn't it be hilarious if literally nobody ever showed up? Nah, Dylan. Dylan might lose it this time. Dylan might lose it. Is there a new champion? Oh, Dylan maintains his streak. The record, the GOAT, the all-timer, first in line, first in our hearts, Dylan Theos. Nice try, Jaden. Nice try, John. Nice try, Nitro Bird. All of y'all, close, but no golden cigar. Health warning, don't smoke golden cigars. Oh, you beautiful, beautiful rogues. I missed you guys. It's been busy. Things that we learned yesterday, if you guys caught the Great Night stream, I thought the lighting looked fantastic. Oh, son of a biscuit-eating doodly-doo. Let me jot down on my to-do. Let's do this. I'm going to put Great, all caps, Great Night, upload, short. Okay, so where are we at? Things that have happened. I guess, you know what? I did. I totally forgot to turn on the chat. I'm going to turn and face the secret chat. Dylan says, you are all worthy adversaries. Better luck next time, though. All right. Let me see this guy working. Where are you at, my guy? There we go. We got chat beta. Go to text. Yep. And chat beta. Well, it's supposed to connect to Twitch Night Attack, but it didn't. Oh well. Oh. If anybody knows if there's a dark mode for pop-outs, that would be rad. That'd be needly-do. That's a real phrase I just made up. I don't see it. So in order to do this, I'm going to have to load this up again. This is not efficient. This is touching too many things too many times. But don't worry. It's all in service of learning. And we are doing that in abundance. You'll notice I made a change. I made a style change. So we are passing through the phase where it's simply novel for Brian to go live. We're also at the phase where Brian knows a little bit more about what he's going to do. So, Style Guide will continue to be chapters every time I go live, but specific goals I'm going to try to put in there. They call this a called shot in narrative storytelling. At the beginning of a YouTube video, think of that Babe Ruth moment where he's standing at the plate, gestures out, pointing in the bleachers, and then knocks it. Spoiler alert, you don't have to actually land the called shot, but in general, your YouTube video should begin with a called shot so that there's a shared understanding of where we are and why we're here. So in this case, I made the promise that you're going to see me post using AI to make it easier to post your podcast. This is something that we've already been doing. You guys were able to watch last week as we did the Weird Things podcast. And now there are some tools that we built because, well, I'll explain all that in just a bit. Let's see. Firefox has a night mode. Good deal. So I'm going to pop out this chat. Then I'll go to the Firefox. I don't know if there's a quick button I can hit in Firefox. Go into night mode. Night mode! It does sound like a cool thing. Let's see. Bookmarks, history, downloads, passwords, add-ons, and themes. Print, find, blah, blah, blah. Settings, I'll bet. There we go. Let me just type the word night. Ooh, it's not called night. Let me do dark. There we go. Website appearance, dark. Okay, let me hit F5 over here, see if that makes the chat dark, which it does, which means now I can switch the prompter over to Yeah, now we're talking. And let me gonna zoom you guys in. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Hey, Rinko, how are you? Appreciate the gift. This toast is for you. All right, so this shot right here is the one that we set up last week with the for the remarkable telestrator, and at the time the OBS were loading in a different order, but now, as we talked about, neurons that fire together wire together, have begun to associate characters quite simply with bot 1, 2, 3, and 4. I can close my eyes and have a sense of bot 4 is always over here, bot 3 should be here. If it's not here, it should be. That's the one that has the prompter. Bots 1 and 2 are floaters, so I don't really worry about that. But in this case, we really only need 3 shots to convey multiple settings and give a sense of where we are. Although you can tell I set up the bot because the Assman, what do you call it, license plate Greeking device is not in the right spot. And my mom is here. All right, so let's talk about the production pipeline for podcasts. In general, what you want to do, this is advice of Brian Tracy from back in the day. He says, identify the one part of your operation, whatever your operation is. If you have a job and work for somebody else, remember, you are a services corporation of one person, and you rent your services. And in your task, what you should endeavor to do is to, oh, you know what? I do kind of like to know how many folks are watching, so let me change that. You should identify the one part of the operation to which you are absolutely vital, and this is antiquated technology or tech terms. You should outsource everything else. And what he meant by that was other humans just pay other human retail prices, but we're entering an age where you can figure out which of these things robots could do. In general, if it touches upon any of your creative endeavors, anything that directly relates to your spark, your engine, your story, you don't want to corrupt that. However, there's a lot of just business, a lot of multiple steps touching stuff that doesn't really matter. And for example, one example of that is, I don't know about you guys, I don't believe I've ever, you always want to think of kind of the customer experience here. I've never pulled out my podcast RSS app, opened it up, and seen that there's a new episode of something, and then thought to myself, oh, I might want to watch this episode of my favorite podcast. But first, maybe you'll glance at the title to get a sense of what it is. But I've never opened it up and looked at the podcast show notes that say, in this episode of the doobie-doobie-dabba-doobie-doobie. Now, that is important because structurally, you want people to be able to discover your stuff. And without actually having to sit and listen to it, you want to make it approachable to other people. So there is a place for all those words. But what they should do is they should be a top-level indication of what's on the inside, and you want to seek congruency. Nobody likes it when the door says men's room and instead they're in the middle of a baseball field. Nobody likes it when the vending machine says Coke and when you press it, a flaming phone book comes out. So we want it to be congruent, but we don't need to sacrifice a bunch of our creative spark in order to get there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to process. First, let me dig up the episode from last week, and then I'll show you the tool that Andrew Main put together, and I'll tell you the history of how it came to be. So let me do Adobe Audition. Get out of here, you. Adobe Audition. And awesome. I'm gonna, I guess we can throw this on here. I'm gonna do, actually I could just do new, doesn't matter. New multi-track session. This will be kind of weird formatting. That'll be fun. Yeah, sure. Although I look like I'm looking to the freaking sky up here, but whatever, it works. So now let me find last week's episode that should have been recorded down to a video file. This is another thing. There are times for redundancies, but we didn't need to record both an audio and a visual one since we needed to punch up the audio only. In theory, I should write a script that will automatically take the locally recorded video file, cut everything appropriately, and then make it audio. You could do all that. That used to be the kind of thing you would have to hire outside talent to do. Again, very few steps if you loop in an AI. But in this case, I'm going to go to production. There we go. You can see here are the video files. So we want to look for the one from last Friday. Today's the 15th, 5 days ago, Wednesday. That would be today. And mute that. By the way, that lo-fi hip-hop channel still playing nice with Content ID.
Hello and welcome to the Weird Things podcast. I'm Ader Mean, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Ooh. Hello, hello.
And Mr. Justin Robert Young. Yeah, buddy.
Okay, so you can hear that Brian is much, much louder than the other two characters. So already we got something to fix, which is good to know. And so this is like if I had a producer, they may not tell me, they may just fix it, and I wouldn't know that there was something wrong going in. But now I'll be able to adjust that and exercise good hygiene next time. So, but that is definitely the right file. And now that it's selected, I'm just going to drag it into Audition. And it's going to take a little bit. This is my least favorite part of the job, is waiting for bars to go across things, watching countdown timers count down. Rinko, we did a intro to astronomy episode of the Monorogue. That's another thing. Stylistically, I guess I can't put the chat on screen, but it seems like nowadays we're moving away from the need to engage with the social proof of chat on screen because it clutters up the image. Because nowadays, when you go live on YouTube and on Twitch, along with the VOD, it has a record of the chat room. Although, so now I'm more of the fan of if something merits showing the chat room, then great, do it. But outside of that, it's kind of just noise to the story. Let's see how this guy's doing. All right, so you can see from the waveform, everything's very, very quiet. So luckily, this is where we're going to engage with a little bit of a thing I like to call good enough. So in this case, the processes that we need to do is we need to balance everything out. We need to set the equalizer. We need to do compressor. And we need to make it so all the characters are roughly the same volume. So let's take a listen to how it is now.
Hello and welcome to the Weird Things podcast. I'm Ader Mean, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Hello, hello. So there, Brian's clearly much more present on there, but luckily Audition makes this very easy to fix. We're just going to select this, and over here on the left-hand side, again, this is not perfect, not ideal, but this is an information-based podcast that we're posting, and we're mainly interested in keeping it out regular and on time, which, yes, the irony is not lost upon me that this is 5 days behind when we recorded it. But you guys wanted to learn, and so we're here. So in this case, I just use the podcast voice. The podcast voice does have the one problem of on the gating, the gate is where it goes from 0 to something. It will tend to catch the beginning of like these moments like that. And so if you're really being precise on it, you'll have to individually tweak all of those. We have to do that on World's Greatest Con a lot. But let's see how it sounds now if we're closer to the same volume.
Hello and welcome to the Weird Things podcast. I'm Ader Mean, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Hello, hello. There we go. So you could still hear that Brian has a higher quality or signal. That's not an indication of the microphone quality. That's just an indication of, I don't know, anything from bandwidth on down. But that works. And in this case, I'm just going to export this. I'll double check at the end.
He embraced some of the
Specifically because finally the copyright has expired.
Well, because it was all good. I mean, you could do Dracula. Dracula's out of copyright now, and so you could easily do Dracula if you want. But Edgar's like, no, I want to do Nosferatu, which I thought was a great choice. It's like Billy Skarsgård, by the way, plays the Count Orlok. Great, just great.
All right, and then we get to the end. He says it's been after.
Cool. It's been weird.
Oh, it's been weird. Okay, so now I'm just going to export the entire mixdown, entire session. We'll put that in. Oh, we got to wait for it to make a new file. And then once it does, I'll go ahead and save that. And then I'll show you guys how we upload it. And I'll explain how we were able to spare ourselves from the misery of, I think I actually tallied it up the first few times I did it. The question was, Brian, why does this take so long? I was like, okay, let's assume each one of the following steps takes a minute. That's being generous. It takes longer than that because I keep having to wait for things to happen. I have to touch every file 15 times in order to get it uploaded, get it posted on the website, get it, like you've already seen me touch it a few times. Again, ideally, it would all be a script that would do this. But Andrew Main, because he's a freaking wizard and a mad genius, just programmed the following script together. So in this case, you can see the waveform. We're all roughly the same thing, and I didn't make any notes that anything needed to be tweaked. So now, oh, you know what? I guess you know what? I added a step here. I shouldn't have done that. Oh well. So here we go. This is a WAV file. I don't want a WAV file. So let me browse this back to in production. Put it in the Weird Things recordings. And I can start a 2025 folder. And I'm not going to save it as a WAV. I'll save it as an MP3 because that's the way MP3s work. Save. Yep. Oh, wait. Yeah. Well, yes, I want to do that. Yes, I want to continue. And again, we are waiting for a bar to go across the thing. Ideally, all of this would be a script, and that's something now that, thanks to AI, your boy is a credible programmer now. Just like that. I went straight from basic on my Apple IIe, which, by the way, since my mom's in the audience, at night, I'd be going to bed and I would hear mom and dad stay up for hours. They would buy paperback books and print it in there were just basic programs, and they would spend hours typing, touch typing, all of these pages and pages. And then when I woke up in the morning, I got to play the games that they hand programmed. And now those skills are very useful because now I just sort of tell a robot, do it like this. No, wait. Like I looking at the code, I can follow enough of it. I couldn't sit down and write it with proper formatting, but guess what? I don't have to anymore. I just have to understand what's going on. So let's double check that this turned out right. Good Weird Things.
Hello and welcome to the Weird Things Pod.
Great. Let me change the name to something accurate. I kind of flubbed all that. Normally, I don't have to do all this and keep a conversation afloat. 2025. So usually the naming convention I'll do is just year, month, day. So 250115 Weird Things Podcast.mp3. Save that. And now I get to show you some of the cool toys. Actually, let's do this. I'm also going to go ahead and knock out. I'll go ahead and knock out the After Things podcast as well, which should be this one. No, that one is not it.
Hello and welcome to After Things.
There we go. That's the one. So we'll drag that guy in, and rather than sitting around like an angry, bored chimp, I will go about my other work, which includes, by the way, this, look, I defended the Edge browser because they're all Chromium under the hood, but there's one thing I cannot forgive, and that is the abomination of this attention-grabbing, way too dangerously personalized front page that constantly is coming up now, and you can't avoid it. Get this, like you can set your homepage to something else, but then there's no way to change the new tab page. Those cheeky F words have figured out how to always be grabbing your attention. Now you can personalize this, but what I did is I said no to everything. Guess what it shows? All of this. Stupid stuff. Makes me mad. I don't like it. My brain is a temple, and just like I don't want to eat crappy junk food, I don't want to fill my head with attention-grabbing garbage. Now, having said that, we'll cover how to create attention-grabbing headlines. All right, so... Oh, you know what? Let me log in with this. All right. So we got this cool tool that I will kind of try to. Hey, look at that. That kind of works. Yeah. So this is a series of nested scripts that Andrew Main wrote, and he did this like in a day because it was taking me a full half day to do the 15 touching of things in order to get them out, because there's the website, the RSS feed, the Patreon, this, and that. And each one would be like, I'd start it, a bar would go across, and I'd be like, well, I'll be back later. And then 15 minutes would pass. And so, anyway, like I said, a lot of touching of things. But now, I'm just going to choose this file. I'm just going to go to the Weird Things directory. And go to 2025. Double click this. And then that's it. The little gear icon is added so that Brian knows it's doing something. Don't worry about it. And what it's doing is uploading it. And then it's from this agent handing it off to another agent that is taking the entirety of the show and translating it to captions. And then that gets handed off to another agent that looks at the entire show and is told a few things. Hey, do me a favor. Give me the full transcript of everything. Based on that transcript, I want you to summarize the entire thing. Great. Now give me a super short version that gets right to the point. Also, pitch me a title. And because we need some pictures. And again, if your entire art is art, then I wouldn't recommend this, because nobody's happier when they find out that they've been talking to a robot or communing with a robot. And if they are happier for it, then I suspect they have something else they need to work out. But in terms of making it easy for humans to access the content, we of course want images that are reflective of the content that's inside, and it'll come up with a good enough on-topic picture here that makes the user experience excellent. But for now, all I need to know is that those gears are running up here. And while that's happening, I can jump back and check on this and do the exact same game. Let's see who remembers what we do here. Here we go. to the effects rack. We're going to do podcast voice, which is going to have its own recipe of presets that it's running. And then let's see if I can do it right this time. I'm going to right click and I'm going to do export entire session. Export session to new file. Mix down session to new file. Entire session. And then this is where I messed up before, but I'll do it right this time. All right, that's enough. That's enough. Mr. Lo-Fi. Jason Norris, if you can link me to how to do that, I would bestow a blessing upon you, for that new tab page is a blight upon humans. Oh, and the bummer is Edge used to be such a fair player. It would import your all of your settings from Chrome, and it would actually open the Google News page like I like. Method 2. I'm not entirely sure. Well, here. I mean, I definitely tried this the other night, but yeah, well, here, we'll get to that. All right, so agents upon agents have taken a look at it. If you guys remember what it was, here is the entire transcript. So we just heard me say Brian Brushwood. I said hello, hello, and Mr. Justin Robert Young. Yeah, buddy. So we heard all that, so we know it's the right thing. 2015, and now the summary is correct in this episode. That is the 3 characters. We did talk a lot about Universal Studios and all that stuff, and you'll notice that we did do picks, and it correctly remembered or noticed that I talked about Canticle for Leibowitz, and we ended up, as we just heard, talking about Nosferatu. So all of these are correct. And so now, in theory, so really, all I have to do now is I'm just going to click this publish to weird things. And, basically I have to see, hey, how do I feel about this? All of these are created in the same style guide. And now I'm just going to publish. There we go. And if I wanted to, I could generate, let's say, oh, that's not very reflective of what this thing should be. Then I could do generate again, and it'll generate another one, and I can make changes to the prompt, and it'll come up with an alternate prompt. Again, this is genius. This is why Andrew Bain is a danged wizard. Saved me a lot of time, energy, and effort. So what I usually do at this point is I keep that open. Oh, meanwhile, we can flip back to this task with After Things. And I could go to production and take a look at the Weird Things recordings. 2025. Oh, yeah. Nice tries, past Brian. Okay, so in this case, I did not change. Well, shootski. Here, I'll just save as. Yep, that's the right way. Let's not make it a wave. Let's make it an MP3. Let's change it to the proper format that I like. 5, 1. And yep, that's fine. That's what I want. We'll wait for that thing to go. In the meantime, I'm gonna open up. So at this point, the public feed only has the main program, but I have to put the Patreon stuff on here. So I'm going to log into the Weird Things Patreon backend, and then I'm just going to create. What am I creating? Let me to the right thing. $20.25. We're gonna do the Weird Things podcast. Oh, get out, you. Media. Don't tell me none of that. Okay, so Patreon seems to be changing things up. So I just grabbed the Weird Things podcast, and because it's going out to patrons, what I will do is I will timeless dive into the future and past of entertainment. Yeah, that's right. That's on Style Guide. And we're up. Actually, I like this one because it has the picks sorted out. And that all works. And it's already there. Add to the podcast feed. I think I have to set it to make sure to charge for it because patrons are the lifeblood of podcasting. If you value independent journalism and storytellers, please become a patron, or Patreon, or a Substacker, or buy stuff from, I don't know, let's say an online store filled with wonderful gadgets that'll make you the most interesting person in the room. Because secretly, this is all a pyramid scheme. So, tags, add to podcast, yes. Who can access it? The public. Charge for it. You better believe it. And I'm clicking publish. And now I got to do the same thing for After Things, but in this case, I'm not going to publish After Things to the public feed. Because that is a patron-only benefit, although you guys got it for free because of all the gifts you could possibly bestow. None is greater than you being here live right now by giving us the gift of your time and being present in the chat. Oh, Rinko. That's something I wish I could fix. Rinko's bringing up the fact that he got the Founders Day email twice. Best practices with MailChimp is within 24 hours of you posting, and let's say 80% of people don't open your email, whoever's left that didn't open your email, best practices are to send it again because some people have busy enough inboxes that if they miss it the first time, then they'll catch it the second time. I don't love bothering people twice, but I do love the fact that an email goes from a 20% open rate, you get like another 12 to 15% on that second sending. So now if the difference is between 20 and 35%, then it's worth sending it twice. However, there are cases where maybe somebody didn't open it in that first window, or there are a few browsers, a few email clients where they have security settings that don't make it possible to know whether or not the email got opened. And so in that case, for that narrow segment, I just have to hope that they're patient and don't mind receiving two. If there's a better way to do it, I'm all ears. You guys can write me at brian@schwood.com. Of course, I'm not in the business of doing anything other than remaining in your good graces. So let's do this. I'm going to use that same tool. This time, I'm going to select the After Things podcast. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, no, that's right. Where is it? Oh, great. Yeah, this is After Things. Awesome. So in this case, I'm actually not going to post it, but the tool is excellent for giving me a title that I could put in Patreon. So now I'm going to go to the creator section. I'm going to create. Clicking create. I'm not sure what best practices on security are as far as you guys seeing URLs on the stream. I think everything's secure enough that you'd have to try to log in, but that's something I'm cognizant of. Let's go After Things. Throw that up in the media. The title, we've got Philosophical Tech Wizards. Sure. Let's go for that. Copy. Post. Add show notes. Excellent. And then this one, we're going to post only to paid patrons. By the way, friendly reminder, really looking forward to, in 2025, tuning up the Modern Rogue Patreon. All of these live streams eventually are going to be patron-only benefits. That's part of the reason that I'm trying to make sure that I provide value in all of them. But for a little while, you want to get the word out and let people know that that this is a thing Brian does. Like even now, over the course of the last hour or so, what have we had? Yeah, like 500 people kind of peeking in. And the way I think of this is the metaphor of picture Brian constantly talking in a lecture hall. As long as there are 50 people seated and listening, it doesn't bother me that thousands of people are streaming past, some of whom pop in just long enough to get, oh, Brian Brushwood is giving some kind of lecture. I heard one interesting fact. I have to go catch my plane or what have you. Like, I don't take offense to that in real life, so I shouldn't take offense to it in the virtual life. What is important is that simply by being the way I am, more people know that is, hey, that is what Brian is doing with his real time. So, now let me hit post on this. This one goes to paid members only. Excellent. Publish. And I'm pretty sure I charged for that first post. Let me go check. Because that would be unfortunate if I just kept forgetting to charge. I know I put it out to the public. Paid for by members. Yes. Yes. Available to all paid members. I charge? Doesn't matter. They're going to monthly anyway. So if I forgot to charge for this one, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. That's probably a flippant attitude I shouldn't have because, I mean, whatever. I'd rather undercharge than overcharge, but I'm pretty sure that's all right. And we're in the middle of doing kind of a performance. So that's using some of these tools to speed things up on the handsy parts of things, the getting stuff out the door. Any questions about this stuff? I'm about to take a short break, and then we're going to move on to more of the tools that we're working. Rinko hits us up with URLs are pretty secure unless you're on Google Maps or something to show something, because the coordinates will appear at the top. Yeah, so you might docs. That's fair enough. Good deal, John. I appreciate it. If I do this right, then all of this content that I'm doing, and by the way, I'm not a fan of that word. It seems so robotic. I like story. But if we do this story right, then it exists as a real-time thing for all of you guys and an interactive thing that is a very slow motion, very important thing that hopefully will be of value to you. Edited down, there could be some public-facing segments and eventually some shorts and all that stuff. Everything's a fractal. As I'm fond of saying, if we think of a tweet, I insist on calling them a tweet, as a atomic unit of storytelling, you notice that a Stephen King tweet looks an awful lot like a Stephen King blog post, looks an awful lot like a Stephen King short story, looks an awful lot like a Stephen King novella, looks an awful lot like a Stephen King novel, looks an awful lot like a Stephen King 7-book series, looks an awful lot like a Dark Tower universe, looks an awful lot like a Stephen King lifetime. And if you do it right, then the story keeps on going even after the human Stephen King has exited the picture. So that's something that if you do it right, you can, as I think of it, use the whole buffalo. And I remember I did a class, the very first class I did, somebody pointed out the incongruency between the numbers that we do on Modern Rogue, because we're as Social Blade calls us, a B+ YouTube channel in terms of popularity. And he was like, I don't understand how all of this, and he sort of waved at the soundstage on the property, all of that came from those numbers. And I said, we are very efficient about using the whole buffalo because we understand that, forgive the crass terminology, but the sucker's game is to show up, turn on a camera, and give your gift of beautiful story and just expect YouTube to be your parent and write you checks for it. That is so inefficient and so wasteful because people have magical moments, and then it's your job to keep that thread alive between the two of you and continue to provide story of value, and also to make it easy for them to balance the scales. And some of that is a relational way. I started to talk about this but got pulled away. There's relational and transactional. Sometimes the solution is to, I just realized that's fine. Some people view Patreon as a relational thing where it's like, I like this thing that they're doing. I just want to support it. I'm that way. And whenever anybody sends me any Patreon benefits, I'm like, oh, I wish you hadn't taken time to do that. I just wanted to support you. Other people love the deep dive behind the scenes stuff like what you're seeing here. This is all content that will eventually become that. And then other people love getting bargains and values and so on. Other people, they want something transactional, but they like the transactional with a little sprinkle of knowing they're helping out on top. So it's like, they don't mind giving you some money, but they'd prefer to get something out of it. And so that's part of why everything at the Scam Stuff store is designed to be genuinely thoughtfully curated, created, and shared materials that will be of use and beloved when you buy them. But also, if I do them right, they're truly unique and original, such that there's enough margin in there that I can afford to pay for extraordinary customer service. This is why every time there's a new iPhone that comes out, the very first thing is you get a teardown video where the headline is, shocker, $1,000 iPhone only made of $276 of parts. Yes, dummy. It's $276 of magnesium, cesium, and whatever. If we pretend that the labor doesn't cost anything, if we pretend that the customer service doesn't cost anything, if we pretend that they are not extraordinary stewards of data, they have grief counselors at Apple whose job is when somebody passes away and they want to transfer ownership of their data, they handle it, and they do it with extraordinary skill. Where do you think that money comes from? But anyway, point is, every time you bristle at margin, or you think like, oh, it's just blank from China, then then I try to make everything at Scam Stuff such that it's like, fine. Oh, sorry, Elmo from Hell. Hi, bye. Yeah. Okay. Annalise pops in and says, labor ain't free, says somebody who provides extraordinary customer service for the organization. All right. So at any rate, now I get to check off my list of to-dones, the Weird Things podcast, and I did get to set up the I did set up the Telestrator. Okay, I got a game for us to play. Yeah, let me start. Yeah, I'm gonna do that over at the one of the things I have to do is set up another one of these stations over at the editing PC so that I can take you guys through the production pipeline on that stuff. But we'll eventually get to the part where I explain the whole story, attention, sales circle. But right now I'm reading a book, The Expanded Mind. Subtitle is Thinking Outside the Brain. And it's one of those books that provides a lot of scientific data to back up something that is intuitively fairly obvious, which is brains function differently in different contexts and spaces, and while you're doing different things. That's why great ideas often happens while you're walking, or if you're trying to remember lines from a play, being there with another actor helps. And I've set up multiple workstations, so if my body is here, I am aware that non-zero chance, no matter what squirrel distracts me, I know you're performing, Brian, and it's your job to keep the conversation afloat and keep everything going on in congruence with the story you're telling. However, if I'm over there, then that means you are engaged in the mechanics of distributing your content. You need to be editing and sharpening your story in a way that's very approachable, and selecting titles and thumbnails and all that stuff, and forcing your eyes to look at the analytics as they come in, because as Arnold Schwarzenegger says, by the way, Arnold Schwarzenegger's fourth act as a success guru is chef's kiss. Oh my God, is it good? He does this, okay, give me just a moment on this one. I listened to the audiobook and I listen at stepped up speed, but he'll say something that he says something that sounds so stupid, and it turns out to be the most brilliant thing ever. He says, I burst out laughing. I'm just walking, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger in my ear says, calves are like the biceps of the legs. I'm like, what? And then he immediately says, in the Greco-Roman ideal of the perfect male body, the biceps and the legs should be proportionally exactly the same. My biceps were 22.5 inches around, but my calves were only 20.5 inches. Most people at the gym, they don't like to do the calves because they're hidden away down at the bottom. That's why they all have chicken legs. But that's the important thing. You must always look in the mirror. See yourself as you are, not as you would like to believe you are. That's why when I read about this, I immediately cut off the bottom half of all of my gym pants. I had to look at my calves. I would begin the workout with my calves and end it with my calves. And then eventually my calves were the same size as my biceps. And then I won Mr. Olympia 7 times. Later on, the same thing happens. My friend, James Cameron, he would go on to later write a movie called Avatar, who is the #1 most selling movie of all time. He had this movie for a killer robot from the future called The Terminator. I wanted to be the hero, Kyle Reese, but he said I would be better as a machine, and I needed to know how to fire guns. And so I thought to myself, I have never fired a gun before in my life, and so I did the reps, just like with my calves. I went to the firing range and I shot so many times. I could shoot the gun without even blinking, because if you think of it, a robot wouldn't blink. Why would they need to blink? They don't have any moisture in their eyes. And then at home, I would blindfold myself and I would assemble and disassemble a 9mm handgun. I had never seen one of them before, but by doing this, I was able to realize that this becomes automatic. I was doing the reps. Later, I would become the governor of the 6th largest economy in the entire world. But when I first did it, I got on stage and I would try to give a speech. But when you give a speech, it is not like when you are being an actor. When you are being an actor, they have writers who write incredible words for you. But then when I was on stage, I had someone bring a VHS cassette of my speech, and I saw myself as I was, and I thought, this is bad. I am not good at this. So I would give speeches anywhere, at an elementary school, anywhere, so I could do the reps. I saw myself in the mirror as I was, not as I wanted to be. Anyway, Arnold Schwarzenegger is a damn genius. Read everything. Read all and do the audiobooks and step up the speed. It's incredible. Hi, Jacob. I'm glad you came in at this. Point being, I set up multiple stations so that everything I'm doing is congruent with the space that I'm in. Man, I don't know. I kind of want to go out on that. That was pretty good. Let's see. John is asking about an Uber patron that grants a ticket to visit Rogue HQ outside of the scheduled public events. Yeah, so for the first time, we're entering a phase where I don't have to say yes to everything. One of the things that was really difficult to schedule around was the fact that I kept having to say yes, which meant a lot of travel and all that stuff. But I'm starting to say no to things, which means I can make a promise to be there and then be there. And one of the things I'd like to do, especially as everything nices up with the studio and everything, is just put on a public-facing calendar, hey, who would like to book a day, a couple nights, come stay for 2 nights or a weekend stay for, I don't know, figure it out, right? I don't know how to price that in an effective way, but John, write me at brian@schwood.com. Thank you, Dylan. Write me at brian@schwood.com, and I won't hold you to it, but give me a sense of what would be a reasonable check that a reasonable person would do for the experience of coming out, having, a meal, hanging out for a day, and then being able to stay on campus for some amount of time. Because we built this for the purpose of importing storytellers, but patrons were always part of the story as well. I don't have a complete sense of what the expectations would be on that. Yeah, Nero, more World's Greatest Con is definitely coming. Buckle up for that. Oh man, I hope I don't get content ID'd. Not for the music, but for my excellent spot-on impression of the audiobook by Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm certain that I will confuse YouTube with it. Yeah, like a weekend retreat. We got to book that stuff out. A rogue B&B, that's a good way to put it, Rinko. All right. The stuff I need to do next is real tedious. So I'm going to end the live stream and just work on this tedious stuff. But in the meantime, quick announcement. We do have a Founders Day picnic. I would love it if you guys made it out. Last year, we had a lot of spinning plates, and it was extremely high pressure because obviously everybody was spending hundreds or thousands of dollars to be here from all over the world for exactly 90 seconds that needed to go exactly right. And by God, we pulled it off. However, this year, not so interested in all that pressure. So instead, it's a low stakes event. $100 is going to cover food all day and facilities and cleanup and prep and safety and we're going to lean into being present with each other. Think of classic corporate picnic stuff, all that cheesy stuff, an egg toss, I'd say 3-legged race, but that'd be dangerous, and also we'd have to break a sweat. But just fun stuff. Annalisa came up with a great idea. We have a VIP tier. We always do something special for the VIPs, but we also have a goat tier. And if you're a goat, you're going to sponsor a goat. And depending on how many goats we have, I'm going to make sure that there are actual goats for each goat. And I haven't told Annalisa this, but what I want to do is I want to have a goat beauty contest. I want to get a bunch of goats. I want each one to be wearing a big old golden necklace with the name of which goat sponsored them. And then we're going to mix all the goats up and we're going to have them, we can have them do IQ tests. We can have the goats do a talent show and we can treat it very seriously and we can have a prize that goes to the goat. This is in addition to all of our, we do every year the world's greatest bluffing tournament with the world's greatest trophy. We'll show you guys that, but it should be a lot of fun. All right, well, here, I'm going to see you guys later. I'm going to do tedious other stuff. Spread the good word, friends. Cool stuff is happening in the year 2025. Bye, gang.